Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's Kiwi Fruit Quality Summit webinar. My name is Kelly Hale, and I serve as the VP of Sales at Hazel Technologies. Hazel Technologies, Inc. is a USDA-funded company that offers new solutions for fruits and vegetables to extend shelf life, improve sales, and reduce food waste. Hazel Technologies welcomes you to today's Kiwi Fruit webinar and thanks you for your participation. We hope this event is beneficial to both you and your operations. The summit will have 3 presentations, with the first presentation being a talk given by David Tanner, Manager Director at Start Afresh Ltd. David has built a career in science and innovation leadership in the New Zealand horticultural industry and founded Start Afresh, a horticultural innovation company, with his business partner, Sally Gardner. Prior to starting Start Afresh, David spent 8 years at Zespri International, where he served as General Manager for Science and Innovation. Our second presentation will be a panel discussion on quality and pre-harvest innovation in the kiwi fruit industry. The conversation will be moderated by Dwayne Farrington, Technical Leader, Kiwi Fruit and Subtropical Crops at Farmland Cooperative Society Limited, and he will be joined by Kiwi Fruit leaders Alan Clover, Grower Services as Mount Pack and Cool, and Josh Inglis, Manager at English Packers Limited. Farmland Cooperative Society Limited is one of New Zealand's largest cooperatives, helping rural shareholders nationwide get the most from their business. Mount Pack and Cool is a pack house specializing in kiwi fruit based in Mount Maunganui, New Zealand, and packages over 12 million trays of kiwi fruit a year. English Packers Limited is a family-owned and operated kiwi fruit orchard, pack house, and cold storage facility based in Motueka, New Zealand. Our final presentation will be from Hazel Technologies' very own Director of Business Development AgTech, Mario Cervantes, who will share information and pre-harvest research on Hazel's solutions and technology. The speakers will present in English. If you are interested in following along in Spanish, please utilize the translation option at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to drop any questions you may have for us to answer at the end of the webinar during our Q&A session. Before beginning, we will see a short video on Hazel Technologies. Please enjoy.
My grandpa and my dad started farming in 1985 with a small kiwi orchard, and now we grow 300 acres of kiwi. Kiwi fruit is one of very few pieces of fruit that actually increases its sugar level throughout time after being picked. Hazel Technologies is perfect for us because it helps us store longer.
What our company does is extend the shelf life of fresh produce by retaining the quality. We are USDA funded, and this gives us the ability to create new solutions for our growers. When we came to Cleaver Packing, we had a solution we believed in, and they were open to trying it in a commercial large volume.
We did a trial run last year, gave it a try, and it was very successful, and so now we're doing it again this year. Traditionally, we can store our kiwi fruit probably 3 to 4 months. With Hazel Technologies, now we can go 6 to 7 months.
What's different about Hazel is that we are an easy-to-use solution. We don't need special machineries and no added labor.
Efficiency in farming is so important because we're always trying to keep our costs down. It only takes 3 seconds to drop that sachet in the box, but we get an extra 3 months of shelf life out of it.
The Hazel sachets are made in the USA. We do that because as a US company, we want to support our growers and retailers.
What's nice is that they tailor the products for our needs. So for organic or conventional, whatever we're doing, we know they have specifically engineered each sachet for each product.
We started with our conventional sachets, and organic produce being an important sector of the industry, we have been listening to our growers and partners and have created a solution that's non-invasive and easy to use.
I think a lot of people that aren't using Hazel Technologies, I think they're going to be left behind.
We really want to reduce food waste. That's our mission. This year will be implemented in 3.2 billion pounds of produce. What that means is we'll be reducing food waste by 270 million pounds.
We definitely feel like they partner with us, they want us to succeed, and they're here to support us. And we really get that feeling from them.
ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Tanner, and I'm going to do a short snapshot on some technology applications for the New Zealand kiwifruit industry. I'd like to thank Hazel Technologies for giving me the opportunity to talk to you all today. And when we're done, I'll be very keen to take questions. First of all, before we get started, I'll just explain a little bit about the company that I work for. Start Fresh, we're a horticultural innovation company. It was formed in 2015 by myself and my business partner, Sally Gardner. Both of us held senior leadership roles in the kiwifruit marketing company, Zespri, for a number of years. But we were drawn to creating an innovation business that could create value for the production and post-harvest sectors of the New Zealand horticulture industry. So we set off to set up a company. It's got a range of components to it. The company, we manage horticultural investments, so we have hectares of kiwifruit and also apples. We have a science and research insights team doing predominantly applied research in the production and post-harvest side of the kiwifruit sector, but also working in avocados, apples, blueberries, and onions. We also have a third part to the business where we're involved in horticultural training and education. And we've had over 1,000 students go through the training courses that we've run over the last 5 years. So a little bit about the industry. Obviously, we're living in challenging times. There's been rapid growth in the New Zealand kiwifruit industry in particular over the last 10 years since PSA hit our industry. And prior to that, there was significant growth also. We're a significant player in the kiwifruit market globally. But unfortunately, a few other headwinds are affecting us at the moment. We've got the COVID-19 obviously overlay that isn't helping business and operations. We've got a lack of transient labour, so backpackers are common to assist us in our industry, and unfortunately, we're not seeing a lot of backpackers heading to New Zealand or actually heading to many parts of the world. We've also got constraints in shipping driven by the COVID-19 situation globally. So our industry is pushing towards innovation and automation and looking for labour saving initiatives. So there's a need for rapid implementation of new to New Zealand kiwifruit technologies. Some of these aren't new technologies, they're already applied in many other industries, but our industry is needing to pick up the baton and run quickly with those. But today I'm only going to cover a few. I want to talk a little bit about modified atmosphere packaging for shorter storing varieties. I'm going to touch on 1-MCP and kiwifruit. And I'm also going to talk just briefly about dynamic cooling regimes across varieties and through the harvest season. So let's get started. Let's talk about modified atmosphere packaging first. Modified atmosphere packaging is a great concept. It effectively takes a product and uses its respiration rate at the desired temperature that it's to be stored and generates a modified atmosphere inside the packaging system. By sealing the packaging system, there's all sorts of benefits obviously gained. One is the retention of water vapor and therefore water inside the fruit, but also the change in atmosphere helps to change the respiration rate of the product. So being utilised by the New Zealand kiwifruit industry for one of its varieties. I can't tell you which variety, but this data is showing you the dark blue line being the modified atmosphere packaging system with the addition of an ethylene scavenging sachet inside the liner. And I'll talk in a moment about why that's important. Obviously, modified atmosphere packaging alone is beneficial over storing in air, as you can see from the brown line versus the green line. And the little fingers off that are just shelf life assessments done to show that fruit that's stored in modified atmosphere packaging still ripens normally once it's released from the bag. So very useful at extending the storage performance of kiwi fruit, but it has to be applied accurately. And it has to be accurate because there are some challenges with MAP and kiwi fruit. First of all, kiwi fruit are one of the most sensitive fruits to ethylene. So you've got to use the ethylene scavenging technology to prevent ethylene buildup in the pack. If we don't do that, we've shown many times that we get a small retention of firmness, and then unfortunately, as the ethylene builds up inside the bag, we counter the benefits of the slower respiration rate with a faster ripening due to that ethylene action. You've also got to make sure you put good fruit inside an MAP bag. MAP is not a hospital. It's not a place for taking poor quality fruit and trying to improve it. And finally, number one for MAP is that temperature management of the supply chain is paramount. If we break this cool chain at all, lift an MAP bag into a 20 to 25 degree environment around it, which can happen in some of our markets, will very quickly reduce the oxygen level inside the bag, and you can head towards anaerobic metabolism conditions. The little graphic that's shown on the slide shows that after removal of a bag that might have been operating at around 14% oxygen and close to 4% carbon dioxide level rises quickly to above 10%, and the oxygen level can deplete to near 2%. And that does depend on temperatures. In this case, the experiment was done at 20 degrees. If it was a lot warmer, there's every chance that the oxygen will be completely depleted inside the bag. Talk about 1-MCP. Use of this technology has had its challenges in kiwi fruit. There's been a number of trials done, and there's no doubt that blocking the action of ethylene using 1-MCP absolutely works for kiwi fruit, but there are some downsides. There is increased cost that hopefully is countered by the increased storage performance and therefore abilities to make sales late and reduce fruit loss. So the increased cost isn't the greatest of the challenges. We get great results when we combine it with modified atmosphere packaging. So for some of our varieties, that may be a real positive and a real benefit. Probably the biggest challenge has been the impact on the different tissues within the fruit. And this does vary by variety. But some of our varieties, when we treat them with 1-MCP, unfortunately, as the fruit ripens after treatment, albeit slowly, the tissues ripen at different rates. And we've often ended up with quite hard core with 1-MCP treated kiwi fruit. And that's all very fine until the consumer, who tends to eat a kiwi fruit by cutting it in half and you dive their spoon into the fruit and it bounces off the core. So we've got some challenges we are still working through trying to solve those. We've absolutely had better results when we've combined it with 1-MCP. And this is that same graphic I showed earlier combined it with modified atmosphere packaging. This is the same graphic I showed before, but now what happens if we put a 1-MCP sachet inside the MAP bag? We get a further delaying or slowing of shelf life, show that we've also inhibited some part of the ripening. And so there's a need, if we use 1-MCP, to make sure that we're working through a ripening process post 1-MCP to ensure that we can deliver the fruit to the consumers that they will appreciate. Final piece I just was going to touch on was the cooling regimes. We all know that for horticultural crops, and kiwi fruit are no different, management of temperature is the most important factor. In particular, for us, the first 100 hours and how we handle the fruit is really important for its storability. Rate of cooling of kiwi fruit is an important factor. that we need to manage, particularly early in the season for our kiwi fruit, to manage some of the quality disorders, particularly chilling injury. And part of the solution has always been, or has recently been, stepwise cooling. At harvest, anywhere from 15 to 25 degrees when we harvest our fruit in our environment, we tend to either ambient cure or controlled temperature curing, which is becoming a more common option in the industry. We're curing at a temperature somewhere between 11 and 14 degrees, depending on the environmental conditions. And the choice of that temperature depends largely on what the dew point will be when we take the fruit out of the pre-cooler and put it through the grading line. After grading, we tend to pre-cool the fruit down to a temperature of around 5 degrees. And we don't take it right down to our final storage temperature. And the reason is that if we do, we enhance the likelihood of chilling injury in the fruit. And we let the static storage do the rest of the cooling job. And it might take 5 to 7 to 10 days even to get the last of that temperature out. And as a result of taking that time, we end up reducing the likelihood of chilling injury, or at least staving off the expression of the chilling injury until after the fruit is sold. Positive for our cooling regimes is that we can still get significant heat removal, and getting that field heat out relatively quickly, down to 5 degrees, means that we get the respiration rate largely under control. Also, the positive is that it allows some time for further starch conversion to sugar, which is part of enhancing the quality attributes of the fruit and staving off the likelihood of getting a chilling injury. More gentle acclimation of the fruit to cool temperatures is that we're after there with that stepwise cooling operation. Obviously, there is a negative. It's slightly more complex temperature regimes and positioning of fruit, but the positives outweigh the negatives in this scenario. So that's really all I wanted to cover today. I just want to conclude with saying that the New Zealand kiwi fruit industry is a great industry to be involved in. It's bold, it's dynamic. We've always had challenges. We've had many of them, but 10 years ago we were faced with the potential complete destruction of our industry through PSA, but through hard work and a focus by all parts of the industry to improve our situation and fight the battle. We've come through the tough times and have got, once again, a very strong and growing industry. Our industry faces those challenges head on, and with our unified structure, it helps us to achieve that. COVID's going to continue to have an effect on us. We see labour shortages for the next little while. We see shipping challenges ahead, but as an industry, we're working hard to make sure we can mitigate the risks that they have to us. We've got a great brand, kiwi fruit industry in New Zealand, all unified under one brand, and we've got an industry that's innovative, that will innovate its way through challenges. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk today, and I look forward to taking questions from you in the next little while. Thanks.
Welcome to our grower panel as part of the Hazel Kiwi Fruit Quality Summit. My name is Dwayne Farrington. I'm the Technical Specialist for Farmlands Cooperative. On the grower panel today, I'd like to introduce to you Alan Clover, the Grower Services Manager for MPAC up in the Tauranga Bar Plenty, and Josh Ingalls, the Operations Manager for Ingalls Packhouse, or Ingalls Packers, down in Motueka. Now, what we'll do today is we'll get these guys to go through and tell you a bit about their experience using dormancy breakers and where does Hazel Trex fit in for them. Now, Alan, could you please provide a bit of background yourself work experience and what you do.
Okay, started off as a dairy farmer, grew up in Taranaki and came to the Bay of Plenty in 1971, joined the orchard industry in about 1985, where I was assisting setting out orchards at that stage until we got sufficient information to money aside to purchase our own orchard close to town, which we turned to an organic orchard for some time, but decided no, we wanted to take it to another level other than organic, and so we looked at bud breakers and other things like that, and we haven't looked backwards since then. I'm a stickler for keeping weather and data information for going forward. We were able to successfully lift the production of the orchard, and I got headhunted by a management company in the kiwi fruit industry. So I ran our single orchard then and became an orchard manager for about 70 odd hectares of, at that stage, it was Haywood and the beginning of what was 16A Gold, the first licensed variety for Zespri. I was involved at that stage during the introduction of PSA to this country and worked closely then with NAF and everybody else. And as a consequence of that, but in the pipeline, Zespri were developing alternative varieties and replacements for the Hawk 16A. I was fortunate enough to have a very proactive orchard owner, which I was looking after his site, and we actually were trialists for the current Gold 3, the still there G14, and the variety of males, which currently is probably the best option at the moment, are the M91s and M33s. We were able to consolidate and we purchased another orchard up the road with our family, and that's where our daughter and husband have got the family trust orchard. So, and then at that point, 3 years ago, I got headhunted by Mountpack and Cool to come onto the grower services team to assist with growing issues within the kiwi fruit industry for growers that didn't have management companies looking after them. So very brief, but that's my background.
Awesome. And Josh, you're not in the Bay of Plenty. Could you give us a bit of a background to what you do, where you are, and what the operations entails?
Yeah, so we're down in Nelson in the South Island, New Zealand. I'm a builder by trade. Left school, went building for 10 years. Came back about 7 years ago to join the family business. Father's been growing kiwi fruit since 1984. Had a fair bit of growth down here in the last 10 years with the G3 coming on post PSA. So we've also got a pack house, cool store, and pulp mills and stuff like that. So. Awesome. So Alan, sounds like you've been in the industry for quite a while. Can you tell us a bit about your experience in using dormancy breakers, and where does Hazel Tricks in this case fit in there?
All right, we'll go back to when we were organic, because we didn't use, or we're not allowed to use any form of doctoring, to use a term, of our plants. And so we had natural bud break. So we learned to use putting in excessive buds and then trimming out to try and find out the extent of the flowering window. And moving away from that with difficulties, we didn't have the best males in those days, but the chieftain was become available. So we grafted across the chieftain and some N56 to spread our flowering window, and high cane became available. And with that, we took that on board, and it did condense our flowering. And so that was the first step forward. And from then on, we've used high cane all the way through, still use high cane or cyanamide on our Haywood, but hopefully there may be something else come along with that. About 5 years ago, when it was not Hazel Tricks, it was Brakensure from Holland, I got an invite from a major horticultural consultant to see if we could make it work on her orchard, and we did. It was successful. Sadly, it went off the market for a while, got it back, and by that stage, we had decided to put Gold 3 into the trust orchard. We already had it in our home orchard. So Hazel Trex, as the new word became, was where I went straight away because I found it worked when I used it, and my interpretation of experience and a little bit of background information. It's something that I would hate to be without, in particular with our changing climatic, climatic conditions on orchards and within areas. So to me, it's really is a valuable tool. How you interpret it and apply it, you still have to use some historic data, but that's fine. That's just how we go forward.
Now, Josh, can you also tell us a bit about your experience with dormancy breakers and actually how you use Hazel Trex down there in Nelson?
Yeah, so we're lucky enough down in Nelson. We have really strong winter chilling hours. For all farmers generally they have winter chilling hours around the 700 hours. We generally get 1200 plus down here. So it's really, our dormancy breaker has been using hydrogen cyanide for a long time in our hay crops down here. But it's really only been, sorry, the last 3 years I've been playing around on the G3. I haven't been doing it for so much numbers. It's been more of it's trying to split the labour down here. There's a huge volume of apples growing down here. So everybody's trying to grab labour in October and only the month. So breaking sure I used it the first time 3 years ago. The first time I used it, I didn't believe I got the result back, so I did another test. And sure enough, it was exactly the same as what the first test did. And a month later, the bud break was exactly what the test was saying. So when I'm saying we split it for a labour purpose, we'll do the Hazel Trex test, and then I'll try and spray some of our blocks in the early window, some in the middle, and some in the late. So that gives us, when it comes to the triple thinning in October, we're not starting a block too early and doing any damage to the king bud. And we're also having got the pressure on at the other end with bees start coming in the orchard.
And how are you finding that?
It's working pretty good so far. It has been a little bit different down here this year. We got smacked with a huge hailstorm Boxing Day, with Nelson region lost 2/3 of the scald crop, a third of the hail crop. So pruning techniques have been a lot different this year. We've used 2-year-old wood, apart from going away from the normal annual cane because they just got slaughtered. So, but generally it has worked out pretty good. I haven't really noticed with the hydrogen cyanide any condensing in the flowering, but there is one thing I have noticed is it is definitely staggering the box in terms of timing, and it's still showing out there in fruit size as well. So I suppose, yeah, the interesting thing will be if it does carry that right through to harvest, to see whether we can not only stagger the box but for a later perspective on orchard is if that flows right through to the harvest as well.
So, Alan, are you a believer in science or gut feeling?
Both. I use the science first, and yes, we have to use science. So my philosophy is, if you don't know and understand what's going on, how can you apply a correct technique with your gut feeling? So, and that's why I think with the changing climate we've got here, and as Josh alluded to, our demand on labour, we can't just go ahead and cheaply now thin a lot of triples or anything like that. So the idea of using the Hazel Trex is to try and optimise that window to achieve the best possible outcome, to minimise trebles but to maximise the floralness at the same time. And year in, year out now, we're using it, that is occurring. But I still use gut feeling, because when you use Hazel Trex, it gives you that sort of timeline or that potential day for the best receptibility. There is no inclusion of weather conditions coming or going. So that is around my gut feeling. And also when I attempt to make the first test, to save having to do too many repeated tests, I use my gut feeling as to, did we pick about on time, later, when did natural shutdown of the plant take place. So that's our gut feeling, but the science is the first one that I would act on for those reasons. You've got to use both.
Nice. And have you seen in any circumstances where the science has been better than the gut feeling?
Yes, I have. Field day, there's an orchard opposite where we were on the field day at Belk Road earlier in the month, and they're down to, I shouldn't be telling you their flower numbers, but less than half of ours with a huge amount of dormancy. So yes, the two parallel orchards, same age, and we're strengths ahead of them in that respect. So there is site-specific differences, but there isn't, because it's just through the hedge on the other side. And they did, in my estimation, put their cyan on far too early, and that has proven to be the case. So science has won out. I thought, well, it's running late, but the reality is we weren't running late. So that's where science did have a little bit more power over my gut feeling, because otherwise my gut feeling, I might have been tempted, but I had the science, the thing in front of me, and we waited a few days and we got it right.
Now, Josh, if there was a grower that was new to, say, using this sort of technology, are there any tricks or tips that you'd give someone?
Yeah, well, I suppose the first thing I'd say is to make sure you choose the buds from the canes selected that shows a true representation of the block. I generally stay well away from any shelf belt rows, boundary shells and stuff like that, as there is a difference in temperature, which is generally later. And I also try not to select any buds from the tip of the canes, because they generally break early. So it's a matter of choosing a representation of that block.
Has he got anything else that you would like to add, Alan?
Yeah, just on the tips, for a first-time user, I would definitely, I did originally just try and cover a cane, but that cane was also part of a plant which had a treatment, not a treatment. So my suggestion for anyone doing it the first time, leave an entire bay untreated. I know it may be slightly difficult doing the application, but with a little bit of common sense, you can probably not cover 90%, at least leave 90% of a bay untouched, and that can be a full control plant. And that would give you, use a plant that is, not against, as Josh said, against a shelter belt, but just a plant that you would pick as middle of the road in the orchard, and it's only a matter of don't spray that one, and leave it and match it, rather than just use a single cane separation for assessing natural bud break. You need a plant at least, or if you've got the opportunity, more. But that would be my quick tip.
Awesome. And how important would you say accuracy of timing is? Especially if you're talking about, I think you said alternative dormancy breakers you're using there, Alan?
So alternative sprays.
Yeah, so how important is timing for those?
Timing is absolutely important, because we don't want a wide flowering window, because Gold 3 can tend to do that. So we want to condense that window to reduce the on-orchard costs for labour for thinning. But more importantly, when we put maybe a foliar feed or some other spray on, you're actually capturing the fruit of a similar size and a similar age from fruit set, because Gold 3 can throw some earlier flowers, and they're quite bigger in cases. But since we've used the Hazel Trex and Advanced Gold on our own home block, as well as the truss block, that issue has basically disappeared. So,
and do you see the same experience down in Nelson there, Josh?
Yeah, I think so. As I said before, we can use it for deciding a different purpose. We don't need the wind chill. So I still want to stagger my timings between blocks, but I still want to stay within that window of what the tractor test is saying. So there's not much point spraying earlier than that or later. So still quite critical with that. I have noticed down year. The last two winters have been the warmest in the last 20 years. So I think there is something in the climate changing, things getting warmer, front days are changing, flowering days are changing. So yeah, although I want to stagger the blocks, I still need to stay with that.
And I've got just now a couple of other final questions. So what other innovations have you guys got on your done in your orchards over the last couple of seasons? Again, Josh.
Yeah, so we've been playing around with a few different things over the last 5 years, really. Doing a lot more wet pollen application. We invested in a boom sprayer last year. Didn't really know how well that went with the Boxing Day hail. We've got no fruit in the box.
Yep.
So yeah, looking forward to this year to see whether some of that stuff works. We're also trying a little bit of reflective pod under the air. And I guess it's purely probably for the same up in the bay. It's just trying to stagger the blocks really right through harvest and not only around our own fruit, but our clients' fruits not all coming out at once. We don't have the elevation differences down in Nelson. We have cooler nights coming in a lot earlier into harvest, so the fruit does mature quite rapidly. So it's quite important if we've got the opportunity as a grower to do things different in orchards that we do.
And you, Ellen?
Okay, innovations. Basically, my innovation is based around not having to try and purchase pollen. Because that is a source that is to a degree diminishing or becoming extremely expensive. We already have what nature has given us as land and male plants. So I've made my male plants extremely large, so they carry a large flower load. So I set them out the same as the females. And with that, I get a nice long male flowering window with a mixture of N91s and 33s ahead of the females and still after the female have pollinated, even if they have had a slightly indifferent bud break like this year with the cold snap right on bud break and a slightly warmer winter, we were able to cover a full brilliant pollination without having to rely on supplementary pollen. So that's my innovation, is that we go back and use Mother Nature and a bit of science, and we'll deal with the effects of shortage of pollen and things like that. So that's my innovation. We do. We've just got to turn the clock back a switch.
Nice. And now my final question. Now we're coming into Christmas. What's the most exciting thing, or what are you most excited about for this upcoming season? Now, Josh.
Hopefully getting fruit in the box next year.
Yep.
Yeah, touch wood, the hail stays away this year.
Yep, awesome. And you, Alan?
Yeah, coming into Christmas, we're into a new year. As an orchardist, we've got to be optimists. But going forward is that, yes, if we get a good crop and we can get it into the marketplace, we'll all be in business. But more importantly, world health will ensure that world markets still continue to flourish. So I'm one of those people that what will be. But however, if we've got the good product, hopefully the world markets will still want it from us.
Awesome, Alan. That's a great note to end this on. So, well, I'll tell you what, guys, I'd like to thank you for your time, especially at this busy time of the year. So we all know what's going on out there in the orchards. And for those of you that have been watching this, we appreciate your time, and actually hope you actually really enjoyed this panel.
Welcome. My name is Mario Cervantes. I'm Director of Business Development for AgTech at Hazel Technologies. Pleasure to be here with you today. I will share with you an overview of our pre and post-harvest technology offerings for kiwi fruit. A bit of the background on Hazel. We started out Northwestern PhD graduates, made a groundbreaking discovery. They paired the time release of active ingredients from solid materials with highly effective treatments to extend the shelf life of produce. They brought these two concepts together and began to address one of the world's greatest challenges, notably known as food waste. Fast forward to today, our mission continues to be to deliver cutting-edge produce products that extend shelf life and improve the quality of food for every person involved, from growers to consumers. And by the end of next year, Hazel will have treated almost 6 billion pounds of fresh produce, preventing almost 500 million pounds from going to waste. Today's presentation, we will be talking about pre-harvest solutions. We have our Hazel Trex in-field genetics analysis testing. And then we also will be talking in post-harvest on our Hazel slow release shelf life enhancement technologies, which are packaging inserts that emit active ingredients and extend the shelf life of perishable food. Across our different categories, commodities, where we work with growers, today we work with over 250 different growers, shippers, marketers, importers. Some of these you recognize here on the screen: Hoppy, Zespri, Farmlands, Vertical Foods, Mega Kiwi. Very excited to continue partnering with these top-notch companies, well-known around the world. And working with these top companies across the fresh produce space requires constant innovation, attention to detail, seamless execution. Behind the suite of products at Hazel is a team of people ready to support and engage with the ever-changing marketplace. Our team includes bright scientists who develop new solutions by working closely alongside specialists in the industry, former growers, packers, marketers, and retail buyers. This fuels our drive to respond to industry needs while providing continuous outreach and support via training programs or webinars, such as this one, as well as other PR opportunities. Hazel's been studied by academics around the globe: UC Davis, Cornell, University of Florida, Oregon State here in the US, as well as outside the United States with INEA and La Universidad Católica in Chile and ARC in South Africa. Now, at Hazel, the key word is innovation. We get excited by it, and we get excited when others see it too. Hazel received almost $1 million in funding after going through a rigorous process of $1 million in funding from the USDA, where less than 5% of the companies receive support. This process entails passing a technical review where the technology is deemed to be both novel and effective, followed by letters of support from customers saying that if the product were developed on a larger scale, it would be advantageous for their business. On the right are a few of Hazel's recent awards. A few weeks ago, we received overall post-harvest solution of the year from AgTech Breakthrough, and other notable mentions. The World Economic Forum invited Hazel to participate in their Technology Pioneer cohort. Our CTO and co-founder, Adam Pressler, was recently named a top innovator in agriculture. And in 2020, Hazel was a finalist in Fast Company's World-Changing Ideas for its technology solutions to reduce food waste and extend the shelf life of produce. After starting up in a small lab and partnering with tropical fruit growers in South Florida, today, Hazel's reach has a global impact. We work across time zones and multiple geographies with growers, academic researchers, and institutes, reflecting the true nature of our global supply chain, where top quality kiwi fruit grown in New Zealand, the US, or in Italy can just as easily cross the pond and make its way to demanding markets in Europe, Asia, or the Americas. Now, our solutions, our sachet solutions that I'll be touching on here in a moment, revolve around the timed, constant release of actives to extend shelf life that are most importantly easy to use, have no overhead costs, in addition to being funded by the USDA, being industry proven and academically validated. And in use in quite a few different commodities, the technology is also, important to note, residue exempt. The sachet technology that you can see here on the left-hand side, we have our Hazel 100 slow release technology in bin or box case sachet presentation. And on the right-hand side, we also have our Hazel O OMRI listed ethylene scrubber. The goal with these technologies is to reduce waste increase the percentage of arrivals, minimize adjustments, and at the end of the day, give the consumer that good eating experience. The rest of the presentation, we'll be talking about Hazel Trex. It's a pre-harvest technology for kiwi fruit developed in conjunction with Zespri to increase yield by a target 15% by optimizing the timing of dormancy breaking spray applications. The sampling kits enable the accurate monitoring of the physiological state of female vines in the orchards, and the results generated by the test are in the form of an index number relative to the stage of your vines to determine the optimal window for dormancy breaking spray treatments. By getting the timing right, you maximize the benefit of applying high cane or Dormex or alternatives such as Advanced Gold, keeping in mind that an optimal application means having a more uniform bud break as well as an increased king flower to lateral flower ratio, which at the end of the day means less hand labor for thinning. Here's what the kit looks like. After purchasing your 2 or 3 test kit, you can take buds from the field, create a sample, send it via courier off to a lab for analysis. In New Zealand, we work with Hill Laboratories, and in the Northern Hemisphere production regions, we work with Eurofins Biodiagnostics. In the toolkit, you'll find the materials needed to take the samples. Additional support material also includes a QR code to sample instructions, an easy-to-use dashboard, and a step-by-step how-to video. Now, what do the results look like? How does this compare to chill hours? How does this relate to increased bud break percentages? The following is data from different growing regions, including California, Italy, and New Zealand. This sampling in 2021 in California was done earlier this year. The grower had 3 different predefined spray dates, an early, middle, and late, and took a Hazel Trex test on each. We can see the scale for Trex indices on the left-hand side, and we can also see the green range, which is 4.5 to 6, which is the ideal range for Hayward kiwi fruit. In this case, the middle spray date was a bit early, and the late spray date was beyond the recommended stage. Switching over to Italy, this is data from Zespri from earlier this year in G3. Now, note we have 3 different defined spray dates, as well as a suggested optimum range for Hazel Trex indices that are a bit different for this variety, going from 5 to 6. Now let's see how the bud break percentage lined up with the spray dates. The middle group, which had the highest percentage of bud break, was also within the recommended window for spraying. If this had been a commercial use of the test, the grower could have decided to wait after that first test result, knowing that the ideal range is approaching and that the optimum application window would likely achieve a higher bud break percentage. In this case, Zespri was keeping track not only of spray dates, not only of bud break percentages, but also keeping track of chill hours. Oftentimes, microclimates affect orchards differently, even if they're right down the road from each other. The chill hours increase over time and impact the readiness of the vines for dormancy breaking sprays. For most growers, however, it could be challenging to determine chill hours, and by taking a Hazel Trex test, they're able to keep tabs on how the vines are progressing in dormancy. Now, with Hayward kiwi fruit, we see similar results. Predefined spray dates with Hazel Trex tests taken around those dates. The percentage of bud break in this case was the first group was higher in the first group, which is right at the beginning of the optimal range. The middle group is right up to the edge of the top end of the recommendation. This would be puzzling, one would think, that the middle group would have achieved similar results to the first group. However, the Trex tests were taken 2 days before the spray dates in question. So it's likely that the physiological state of the plant, in the case of the first group, would have comfortably entered the optimum range, and for the middle group, likely had already exited the optimum period. When we look at the chill hours, we can see that the vines rapidly accumulate chill hours, further illustrating progression in dormancy and the need to correctly time the application of a dormancy breaker to maximize its benefits. Data from New Zealand in 2014 showing how different timing can affect the efficacy of dormancy breaking applications. The timing with the result right in the middle of the optimum range resulted in the highest percent of bud break and king flower to lateral flower ratio. A trial the following year in New Zealand, the same results, both in higher percent bud break as well as higher ratio of king flower per winter bud. In summary, Trex is a great tool that measures the genetic indicators that the plant itself is expressing as it's approaching the end of dormancy. Using Trex helps optimize timing decisions to make best use of dormancy breakers in order to maximize the potential for increased bud break uniformity, increased king flower to lateral flower ratio, and lower thinning costs. Where can I purchase a Hazel Trex kit? If you're in New Zealand, give Dwayne Farrington a call. There is his phone number. And if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, reach out to us directly, info@hazeltechnologies.com. Thank you for your time. And with that, I will conclude my presentation.
And now it's time for some question and answer. We have some questions that have been sent in from folks in the audience, and I ask that the panelists and the presenters please turn their cameras and microphones on, and we'll ask a couple questions with the remaining time. First question we have is for Dave Tanner. Dave, based on your experience, do you believe tools like 1MCP could fit into long distance shipments or storage programs for palm fruit, kiwi fruit, stone fruit, among others?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 1MCP, particularly for palm fruit, very, very effective. And that slow release technology that Hazel delivers is fantastic for apples. For other products, there's probably still a little bit of work to be done to optimize in terms of how the technology interacts with the product. But I'm sure that there'll be a positive benefit in all cases. As I outlined a little bit with kiwi fruit, there are still a few challenges, but we do have some success having used Hazel Tech's 1MCP sachet. We have had some success with some of our varieties, absolutely.
Thanks. This question is for both Josh and Alan. It sounds like the last couple of seasons have had quite a bit of unpredictable weather. Are you able to track chill hours in your orchards? It sounds like Trex could be a supplement or complement to that. Josh, you want to take this first?
Yeah, so we are able to track our wind chill hours through KBH's website. I've got multiple weather stations throughout our area and throughout New Zealand. I guess, although winter chill hours are important overall, for this year, for example, we had our warmest June on record. First 2 weeks of July were extremely cold. The end of July was warm. So although our winter chill hours are up, it's still a bit of a guess in terms of how the plants are reacting at different stages to different chill units. So I guess that the Hazel Trex will take the guessing side of things out of it.
Thanks. Alan, your thoughts?
Yes, we do keep reasonably accurate records of our local temperature, though we are also able to access other chill unit records through KGI and the research stations that are sort of around. So we accumulatively get a lot of information from other sources. Probably our next step would be going forward is to have our own weather station where we can actually monitor the chill units per se and record them. But it hasn't been an issue getting data enough to worry us at this stage.
Thank you. Next question, Mario, this one's for you. Do you see this being compatible with other dormancy breakers down the road beyond hydrogen, cyanamide, and alternatives like advanced gold?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. The short answer is definitely. In my presentation, I talked a little bit about the excitement and the drive at Hazel, and so as the industry evolves and as more products are available, we're excited to dive into it and see what's next, how more we can push the test and the additional value we can give to growers. So very excited about continuing to work in the northern and southern hemispheres, and certainly we see that with the physiological traits of the fruit being quite similar. It's the same variety that's growing in these different regions. It would be logical to think that we could certainly implement more things over time.
Great, thank you. Alan, based on your years of experience, do you have any recommendations for growers in other regions outside of New Zealand?
Good question. I'll have to admit that our climatic differences in New Zealand are quite extreme, but as a grower or as a manager of anything like Josh is down in the warm of the north of the South Island, you've got to learn your own local microclimates and what's going on. As we're getting more and more sort of extreme weather events, short dumps, cold snaps that affect part of the country and not necessarily other parts of the country, we have to be slightly more condensed in our outlook and not so generalized. That would be my thoughts, that if we went back to Taranaki and tried to grow kiwi fruit, for instance, where it came from, it would definitely have to sort out where I would try. It certainly wouldn't be where we were dairy farming, but so therefore it does come back to condensed local knowledge of your climate and soils.
Thank you. Great answer. Last question. We have time for one more. Last question, Mario, this one's for you. How long can Hazel sachets be stored in a freezer and still be effective?
For our 1-MCP technology, our slow release technology sachets, the sachets can be kept in the freezer for quite a while. The bag itself will have an expiration date, many months out. In many cases, it's about half a year. For our Hazel O technology, it's the shelf life is you have a little bit longer to use it.
Great, thank you. Thank you to the presenters, and thank you for the panelists for your participation today. And thank you to the audience. I think this has been a very informative session, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care.